How are y'all doing this morning? It is 1:30 in the morning, and Donald Trump says he wants the government to be shut down till the next election. So now it becomes most likely that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, that's what Trump has. Trump's in the power to make that happen. He just vetoes anything that doesn't have wall spending. Honestly, I begin to wonder if Trump would even if it did have wall spending, would he even pass it? Because I honestly begin to wonder if this is just about the next election and he thinks he can get political points from it. I don't know if he can or if he can't, but I think there's an obvious attempt that he's got politicking, campaigning in mind. I think he's got campaigning in mind right now until the next election. Remember, folks, we just went through an election, which means we're almost a full 2 years until the next one. He clearly wants the wall to be the center of the next election, and he gets to dictate that. And he wants this to be the number one discussion going into the election. If our government is still closed, if our government is still closed, first of all, you got to understand Donald Trump. The man understands how fatigue works. If he beats this for 2 years, what he'll get is the American people will get fatigued, and they know Trump's not going to shut up. So it's like, oh, just give him the wall. I'm so tired of this conversation. Oh, just give him the wall. I'm so tired of this fucking conversation. This stays the number one conversation because, after all, nothing else can get done in the Congress and the Senate, and it makes the whole world revolve around Trump. And these are all things Trump likes. Um, I don't know if there's anything they can do about it as far as like saying this president is the national. I personally think that if he continues to do this, you'll pick off more people who will want to impeach him, and it could lead to Republicans actually impeaching this president because they don't have no choice because they know, see, they're going to pay dearly for what Trump's doing in the next election. Even if Trump skates by, they'll pay. So I think that they're going to start recognizing, hey, look, we're going to be the sacrificial lambs if we don't open our government. And I think Trump realizes firsthand that the people in the Senate and the Congress that are Republicans will be the sacrificial lamb way before he is. Is anyone surprised, though, that Donald Trump wants to use this as a political pawns to build the next campaign around? Because that's what he's doing. He's trying to make this whole issue about the next election, much the same way they did last time with the Supreme Court. They made the whole thing about it, and they were willing to drag it on and on and on and on to get to the next election. And I really think that this will favor the Democrats if they choose to do this. But here's the thing: who it favors and who it doesn't favor. It doesn't favor the American people. Our national debt, I can't even comprehend what it'll be in 2 years if our government stays shut down for 2 fucking years. Can anyone comprehend that? I mean, literally, our food stamp program, it's gone, right? Hey, what you doing, man? You want to add some insight? Like, what would a 2 year plus shutdown look like? I mean, what would it look like in 2 years of our government being shut down? Donald Trump is actually saying that is willing to keep the government shut down until the next election. Do you want to take some guesses on what that would look like? I mean, it absolutely catastrophic. It's just mind fucking, really. Anyways, well, I think everyone's affected by it personally. So yeah, of course I'm being affected by it personally because I live near a military town. Um, you're seeing businesses shutter. You're seeing businesses that are getting shut down because military personnel doesn't aren't or military contracts or government contracts. There's so much contracts around here. They yeah, like even convenience stores aren't surviving around here because it affects my area so tremendously more than it does your average area because there's so much military around here. I imagine it's doing the same kind of thing in Washington D.C., where so many people are government employees that it the byproduct is it trickles down, and you know we're going to literally see the trickle down effect. We're same way much in the auto bailout where you had Ford get bailed out, but they weren't struggling. It was actually Chrysler and General Motors that were struggling, but they had Ford had to ask for them to get bailed out because what it was doing is the trickle down effect was the suppliers were going under. The trickle down effect here and in big military or big government based towns like Washington, and then you have the trickle down is that the convenience store doesn't sell as many hot dogs. As simple as that is, it is very basic economics that if the people that are buying the hot dogs don't have money, then they're not going to buy hot dogs, and it's very very simple economics. But it's just then they go to laying people off, and that becomes permanent, right? Because they lost those earnings for that period of time. That's ear. That's not fixable. It's much the same way when people said the Dow Jones crashed on Christmas Eve. When the Dow Jones crashed on Christmas Eve, and they're like on the day after Christmas, they're like, oh, it came back. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter because the day after Christmas, it's no longer Christmas Eve again. Christmas Eve is a huge spending day, and it does matter because you can't make those earnings again. You can't get those earnings back. Once you lose those earnings on Christmas Eve, yes, you can get back to where you were the day before Christmas Eve, but you can't understand what your earnings would have been on a holiday unless it's a holiday again, and that's just not how it works. There's only one Christmas Eve a year, and if you miss that opportunity, you miss that opportunity. So the day after Christmas, you're not going to see those same kind of reports. And all we did was get back to status quo. And why is it accepted to be back at status quo? Like if we open the government, do we celebrate? Do we not understand that we still lost over 14 days of a government shutdown, still cost the American taxpayer billions? Or do we just act like that's not the case and we celebrate the fact that our governments have opened? There's no win here, right? If we open our government up right now, we still lose tremendously. Tremendously. We have already lost. I agree the shutdown is outage, but the overall I do support. Why not? What's the reason? Well, my reason is quite simple. We're in the United States of America. We're a nation built on immigration, and there is no sensible reason to have a wall. I mean, our founding fathers didn't need a wall, and if our founding fathers didn't need a wall, why the hell do we need a wall? There is no need for a wall. And matter of fact, more to the point, walls don't work. Let's talk about the fact that 90% of people who come from obviously the country that is most affected is any country that's south of Mexico and Mexico included. Those people come to our country 90% of the time by overstaying their visa. They get a visa and then they overstay it. They get a visa, they overstay their welcome. So a wall doesn't fix that. And as long as they're still selling ladders at Home Depot and at any hardware store, they're going to still be climbing over this wall. And as long as they're still selling shovels, they're going to be digging under this wall. Let's not forget about the massive influx of people who are going through tunnels. The drug cartels send people through tunnels. They don't cross at legal border crossings anyways. And I have a lot of emergency personnel in the background. I'm hearing that, and I'm thinking I should go report on that. So That's why I was getting a little distracted there. For those of you who do not know, I do cop blocks on this channel. I record the police often on this channel. I record all government officials on this channel. So if you are not, if you're into that kind of thing, subscribe to the channel, like our channel. I would appreciate so much if everyone watching does subscribe. I really do. And also like this video. Please like this video. It really matters. It's about how Google and it's about how Google, Yahoo, all the search engines rank the video and the importance of the video. But thank you. I see the like just went up. And that's really important. If you understand that what I'm doing is a form of journalism, listen. You've seen me this past weekend for New Year's event where Channel 12, my local media, Channel 7, said that I'm not the media, right? Because I film in my kitchen, right? That makes me not the news, right? CNN is much more better because they have a logo up here, and that's justification, right? They think because there's a logo in the background that makes them more news than me, right? Because they have continuously spilled the lies of what news is. Now, let me tell you here. To me, and my personal, the way I see it, journalism is art. Journalism is a form of art. It's me telling my story to you. And if I don't explain that well enough, if I don't put that well enough out there, then that's my fault. It's not your fault, right? That I have to be able to put my story the way I want it to be told. So often you hear people say, well, CNN's to the left, or MSNBC's to the left, or Fox News is to the right. And I don't even have a problem with that. I have more of a problem is that CNN, Anderson Cooper, a great news reporter, won a couple Peabody Awards, but he won those in a time when when BP spilled their oil, and then he went to the Gulf of Mexico and he stood knee deep in oil and decided to cover those stories. Today, let's just be real. Mostly every news anchor at CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News sit in a studio. And they don't ever go out into the field. They don't know what a sound of a siren goes by because they haven't heard one in a long time on a live broadcast. They don't know what it's like to have a car in the background because they haven't had one in a long time on their broadcast. And to me, if anything makes them fake news, that makes them fake news. Not the way they choose to tell their story, because as a journalist, I believe you get to tell your story any way you want, whether you tell that story to the left or tell that story to the right. And let me make this clear to you. I keep beating this dead horse. I don't care if you're Alex Jones. I will not suppress you. And I believe YouTube, I believe Twitter, I believe Facebook, I believe a lot of outlets suppressed Alex Jones. He is far, far right, and I disagree with him on every issue. But it is wrong to suppress him. It's against our First Amendment right. He has the right to freedom of speech and the right to freedom of press. And he also has the right to tell his story. You don't have to agree with it. Turn the fucking channel. But what he does, that's just how I see things. And I don't care if you're the Young Turks, which is a far, far liberal group. At some point, if they were suppressed, I would have a problem with it. I don't care if you're far left, far right. I don't care if you're Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, and I don't care if you're the Young Turks. It makes no difference to me. Here's the thing, isn't it ironic that we're in a situation where it's okay to suppress the right, and it's not okay but you see the Young Turks never get suppressed, and that's because YouTube is liberal. That's because Facebook is liberal. That's because all these media, and listen, this is coming from a liberal. I think it resonates because I'm a liberal, and I'm not stupid. I know that we get a pass. We get to say more than the conservatives, and that's not fair. It's not. But more than being fair, it's just not right. It's not right. We got to do something about it. And I don't know. It's fundamentally constitutional. Let me tell you something else. You want to talk about suppressing rights? Let's talk about this. As we continue to see this, as we continue to see people like me do what I do is record the police, often I'll get near a police car in my live feed, like you're watching right now, it'll get scrambled. And there's no question to me, because I watch too many live feeds on YouTube where their live feeds are being scrambled. That is, you're not physically touching my equipment, but you're touching my equipment in a way where my equipment is being damaged That's an attack, and I believe that has to go all the way to the Supreme Court, as obviously that is a cyber attack. That's an assault on my personal property, and it's gonna be a hard fight to say, look, they're not physically touching us anymore, but they're still assaulting and taking our freedom of press away. They're still assaulting our freedom. They're still assaulting us. They're still touching our equipment. They're just doing it in a cyber way, because as the technology changes, we have to evolve, and we're going to get to this point where we have to take this to the Supreme Court, because they will continue to suppress us. They will continue to try to create silence for us. They don't want our message out there. They want to use the fact that their platform is our tax dollars, and they want to use that against us. And we will continue to fight tooth and nail to make sure we get somewhere. Honestly, we are in hard times as the press, because what we're coming up against is, what are we going to do when the organizations that do protect us are shut down? What are we going to do when Donald Trump continues to take this for 2 years? I'm telling you, folks, I don't know what a 2-year shutdown looks like. I can't even fathom what a 2-year shutdown looks like. It's going to be scary. It's going to be crazy. And I don't know the end in sight. And obviously the end has to be, if he's going to shut the government down until the next election, we have to make sure he doesn't win the next election. And yes, I'm a liberal, and yes, I'm saying that is because I believe that is the only alternative for a man who doesn't even want to keep the government open. Then guess what? In the next election, if that's how long you want to close the government, you have to leave. But take this to the bank. If Donald Trump loses in the next election, if every Republican is put out of place, if everyone who wants to keep the government shut down loses in the next election, as someone who thinks that's what should happen to everyone who wants to keep the government shut down loses their job in the next election, I'm here to tell you, under those circumstances, we as American people still will have lost. We will have lost in a massive way that is ununderstanding, uncomprehendable. Our national debt won't have tripled or 10 times or 100 times, 300 or 400 times or 500 times. It is astronomical, but it's a lot bigger than over 500 times what our national debt is currently. Our national debt will balloon unfixable places. There's no comprehension of the number that our national debt will climb to over a government shutdown that'll last 2 years. We will default on everything. We will default on everything, including, most importantly, we will default on the trust of the world that we will pay our bills. There's no way China will ever give us any kind of money. There's no way that any country will never can. And quite frankly, I believe that this government shutdown over a 2-year period will send us into the next world war. And that is, quite frankly, a security risk unbelievable. And in a conversation that's supposed to be about security, Donald Trump, you're crazy. You're out of your fucking mind. And more so than that, you're a terrorist. Because what you're doing is putting the national security of this country in jeopardy. And I'm telling you, if we default on China, if we default on Russia, if we tell them we're not going to pay them the money that we owe them, it will be war. It will be massive, widespread war. If that's what you're looking for, in 2 years, I believe you're going to have it. My name's Kent. I'm with Full Entertainment Media. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell for notifications.